At my son's law school reception, I was directed to the kitchen. I stood in the marble foyer of Hartford Law School's reception hall, watching my son Daniel accept congratulations from his professors and classmates. 28 years of night shifts at the hospital, weekend overtime, and skipped vacations had brought us to this moment. His law school graduation, top 10% of his class, a federal clerkship waiting. I smoothed down my simple black dress, the nicest thing I owned, and started toward him. A young woman in pearls and a Chanel suit stepped directly into my path. She looked me up and down with the kind of dismissive glance I'd seen 1,000 times in my career, the look that sees uniform instead of person, position instead of competence. Catering staff this way. She pointed toward the service entrance. The kitchen is being overwhelmed. They need extra hands immediately. I opened my mouth to correct her, but she'd already turned away, her attention fixed on her phone. I could have explained. I could have told her I was Judge Patricia Morrison, sitting on the Federal District Court for the Southern District of New York. I could have mentioned that I'd presided over 3 Supreme Court cases, written opinions cited in constitutional law textbooks, or that the Attorney General had my personal number. But something in her tone, that reflexive assumption, made me pause. I wanted to see where this went. Move along. Another woman appeared, older, dripping in diamonds that probably cost more than my annual salary. We can't have service people mingling with guests. It's inappropriate. I recognized her from Daniel's stories. Patricia Ashford, his girlfriend Emma's mother. Old money. Connecticut aristocracy. The kind of wealth that assumed everyone else existed to serve it. I'd been looking forward to meeting her. Not like this, though. I'm actually here for my son's graduation, I said quietly. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Your son? Which one is the scholarship student? The way she said scholarship made it sound like a disease. Daniel Morrison. Her face changed. Not to warmth, to calculation. Oh, Emma's Daniel. She looked me over again, this time with sharper assessment. How enterprising of him. I suppose working-class ambition has its place. Emma speaks highly of his work ethic. The words were compliments. The tone was acid. Though, of course, this relationship is just a law school phase. Emma will be joining her father's firm in Manhattan. Partnership track. Our family has certain expectations. The younger woman in pearls returned. Mother, Daddy wants you. The dean is asking about the Ashford Fellowship announcement. Coming, Stephanie. Patricia turned back to me. You understand? I'm sure. Different worlds. Daniel seems like a nice young man, but Emma's future is already planned. Her father and I have invested considerable resources in the right connections, the right opportunities. A relationship with someone from your background, it simply doesn't fit the trajectory we've established. She walked away before I could respond. I stood there, feeling 30 years of professional achievement dissolve under her contempt. Around me, lawyers and professors mingled, discussing federal appointments and Supreme Court decisions. Some of them had argued cases in my courtroom. None of them recognized me out of context, out of robes, just another middle-aged black woman in an off-the-rack dress. I made my way toward Daniel. He was talking to Emma, a lovely blonde girl who'd been to our apartment twice, polite and warm both times. I'd liked her, wondered if she shared her mother's views. Before I reached them, a booming voice cut through the conversation. Patricia, darling, where is this cleaning woman you mentioned? I saw someone suspicious near the coat check. A tall man in a custom suit materialized. Richard Ashford, senior partner at Ashford and Sterling, one of Manhattan's white shoe law firms. Daniel had mentioned him. Old Yale man. Member at 3 private clubs. The kind of lawyer who made partner through connections, not courtroom skills. He spotted me and frowned. You there. Did someone direct you to the kitchen? The service entrance is clearly marked. Emma's face went pale. Daddy, That's not— Emma, let the adults handle this. He waved her off. Listen, we're paying a premium for this event. The optics matter. We can't have service staff wandering around the guest areas. It reflects poorly on the school, on the families present. He lowered his voice, but not enough. Keep that cleaning lady away from our guests. Some of the most prominent legal minds in Connecticut are here tonight. Daniel materialized at my side, his face tight with fury. Dad, this is my mother, Judge Patricia Morrison, Federal District Court, Southern District of New York. The color didn't just drain from Richard Ashford's face. It evacuated. His wife appeared beside him, diamonds catching the light, and I watched understanding hit her like a physical blow. Her hand went to her throat. Stephanie, the daughter in pearls, made a small choking sound. Judge Morrison? Richard's voice cracked. Patricia Morrison? The Patricia Morrison? The cleaning lady, I said pleasantly. Though I do appreciate your concern about optics, Mr. Ashford. Optics matter tremendously in my line of work as well. The dean of the law school chose that moment to approach, champagne glass in hand. Patricia, I didn't see you arrive. Everyone's been asking when you'd get here. He kissed my cheek warmly. We're still hoping you'll reconsider speaking at next month's Constitutional Law Symposium. The students would be thrilled. Richard Ashford's face had progressed from white to an interesting shade of gray. His wife clutched his arm, her knuckles white against his dark sleeve. Around us, conversations were stopping, heads turning, people recognizing me now that context had shifted. Dean Matthews, wonderful to see you. I smiled. I'm afraid I was briefly mistaken for catering staff. An honest error, I'm sure. The dean's expression went cold. I see. He turned to the Ashfords. Patricia Morrison is one of the most distinguished jurists in the country. She's argued before the Supreme Court, published extensively on constitutional law, and her opinions on Fourth Amendment protections are taught in law schools worldwide, including ours. She also happens to be the mother of one of our top graduates. We didn't realize, Patricia Ashford started, that a black woman in a simple dress might be more than service staff? I kept my voice pleasant, but the words landed like hammer blows. I understand completely. It's an easy mistake when you're accustomed to certain assumptions about who belongs in which spaces. Emma had tears on her face. Daniel's jaw was clenched so tight I worried about his teeth, but Richard Ashford's reaction was what captured my attention. His hand had gone to his inside jacket pocket, where I assumed his phone lived. His eyes held the specific panic of a man calculating disaster. Judge Morrison, please, let me apologize. No need. I cut him off. Though I am curious about something. Emma mentioned you're considering Daniel for an associate position at your firm. Is that still under consideration? The question was a blade, and we both knew it. Richard Ashford worked in federal court regularly. My federal court. Constitutional cases, civil rights litigation, complex business disputes. Cases that would come before me or my colleagues. Cases where having insulted a sitting federal judge before witnesses, including the dean of a major law school, would be career poison. Of course, he stammered. Daniel's credentials are exemplary. We'd be honored to have him. How generous. I let the words hang. Though I suspect Daniel will be exploring multiple options. His federal clerkship with Judge Anderson will give him considerable leverage. Judge Anderson speaks very highly of him, by the way. We had lunch last Tuesday. Discussed Daniel's future at length. Another body blow. Judge Anderson, Ninth Circuit, former Supreme Court clerk himself. One of the most respected jurists in the country. The kind of connection that opened every door in the legal profession. Patricia Ashford had recovered enough to attempt damage control. Emma has told us wonderful things about Daniel. We were hoping to invite you both to dinner next week. Get to know each other properly. Were you? I raised an eyebrow. Because 5 minutes ago, you were explaining how this relationship was just a law school phase, and how Daniel's background didn't fit Emma's trajectory. Your exact words, I believe. Emma made a soft sound of distress. Stephanie had disappeared entirely, probably to the bathroom to panic in private. Around us, the circle of listeners had grown. I recognized 2 federal prosecutors from my court, a law professor who'd clerked for me years ago, and several prominent defense attorneys. This story would be in every courthouse and law firm in New York by Monday morning. Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went even grayer, if possible. "Excuse me, I need to take this." He stepped away, but not far enough. His voice carried. "Yes, I understand." "No. I realize the partnership vote is next month." "Yes. I'm aware Judge Morrison handles most of our federal docket. I understand the optics. I'll handle it." He returned, sweat visible on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "Judge Morrison, perhaps we could speak privately?" "I don't think that's necessary." I kept my voice calm, almost kind. It was the tone I used in court when lawyers tried to lie to me. "You've made your position quite clear. Your family has certain expectations, different worlds, trajectories that don't align." I understood perfectly. That was a misunderstanding. Was it? I looked past him to Patricia, who stood frozen like a deer in headlights. "Your wife was very articulate about the situation. Working-class ambition has its place," she said, "just not in your daughter's life." A senior partner from another major firm approached, hand extended. "Judge Morrison, David Chen from Patterson and Ross. I argued the Henderson case before you last fall. Brilliant opinion, if I may say so. The Second Circuit cited it just last week." "Thank you, David. Your brief was exceptional." I shook his hand warmly, aware of Richard Ashford's visible flinching at the easy familiarity. "How is your daughter? Still at Georgetown Law?" "First in her class. Actually, she's hoping to clerk for you after graduation." "Have her call my chambers. We should talk." David nodded and moved on, but not before giving Richard Ashford a look that conveyed everything about social hierarchy and professional connections. In the legal world, particularly in federal court, a judge's favor could make or destroy careers. Richard had just publicly insulted a federal judge in front of witnesses who would talk. In a profession built on relationships and reputation, he'd committed professional suicide. Another phone buzz. Richard glanced at it, and I saw actual fear flash across his face. He stepped away again, and this time his voice was desperate. "I'm handling it. Yes, I know the Medicaid fraud case is on her docket next month. I understand we bill $3 million annually in federal court. I said I'm handling it." Patricia grabbed his arm when he returned. "Richard, do something." "What exactly would you like him to do?" I asked pleasantly. "Apologize? Explain that he didn't mean to mistake a federal judge for cleaning staff? Clarify that his objections to his daughter dating my son weren't really about class and race, just about fit?" I smiled. "I'm genuinely curious about the strategy here." Daniel touched my arm. "Mom, can we go?" "In a moment, sweetheart." I turned back to the Ashfords. "I want to be very clear about something. I don't hold grudges. I don't retaliate in court because of personal slights. My judicial record is impeccable, and I intend to keep it that way. When cases involving Ashford and Sterling come before me, I will rule based on law and evidence, exactly as I always have. You have my word on that." Richard's shoulders sagged with relief. "However," I continued, and watched the relief evaporate, "I also don't forget. And I don't pretend. So when you appear in my courtroom, Mr. Ashford, we'll both know exactly what you think of me. We'll both remember this conversation. And every time you make an argument, every time you cite a precedent or claim the moral high ground, we'll both be aware of the irony. That kind of awareness has a way of affecting performance, I've found. It's difficult to argue passionately about justice and equality when you recently mistook a federal judge for domestic help because of her race. His phone buzzed again. He didn't even look at it. The legal community is remarkably small, I went on. Stories travel. By Monday, every federal judge in the Southern District will know about this. Judge Anderson certainly will, since I'm having dinner with him Sunday night. The story will reach the Second Circuit by Tuesday, the Supreme Court Clerks Network by Wednesday. Your firm handles significant federal litigation. Millions in billings annually, I'd guess. How many of those cases do you think will remain at Ashford and Sterling when clients learn that a senior partner publicly insulted Judge Morrison? When they discover that your prejudices are so deeply ingrained that you couldn't recognize a federal judge standing 10 feet away? Patricia made a small sound. Stephanie had returned, her makeup clearly reapplied over tear tracks. Emma was openly crying now, and Daniel had his arm around her. The dean cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all take a breath. This has been an unfortunate misunderstanding. Has it? I looked at him directly. Because it seems to me it was quite a clear understanding. The Ashfords understood exactly what they saw when they looked at me. A black woman in an inexpensive dress who must be service staff. They understood exactly what they thought about my son. Working-class ambition. Different worlds. Not suitable for their daughter despite his academic excellence. They understood their position in society and mine, or what they assumed mine was. The only thing they didn't understand was that positions aren't always what they appear to be. Richard's phone lit up again. This time he answered it right there, too panicked to step away. Yes, I know. The management committee is calling an emergency meeting? Tonight? But the reception isn't over. I understand. Yes, I'll be there within the hour. He ended the call and looked at me with the expression of a man watching his career crumble. Judge Morrison, please. My firm. The management committee. They're calling an emergency session. Someone already told them what happened here. The legal community is remarkably well connected, I observed. News travels at the speed of text messages. My partnership. I'm up for senior partner next month. This could destroy everything I've worked for. Could it? I tilted my head thoughtfully. That seems disproportionate. Surely one honest mistake about someone's identity shouldn't derail an entire career. Unless, of course, it reveals something deeper about character and judgment, about who you respect and who you dismiss, about the assumptions you make and the biases you carry into your professional work. Those things might concern a management committee, I suppose, particularly at a firm that depends on federal court work. Patricia grabbed my hand. I let her, curious to see where this was going. Please, Judge Morrison, we made a terrible mistake. We were wrong. But please don't let this destroy my husband's career. He's worked 25 years to reach this position. 25 years, I repeated. I worked 30 years. Night shifts as an ER nurse to pay for law school. Part-time prosecutor, while raising Daniel alone after his father died. Public defender work nobody else wanted. Assistant U.S. attorney taking gang cases that terrified other lawyers. Federal appointment at 47, considered young for the bench. Every single day proving I belonged in spaces where people assumed I was lost, or cleaning, or serving coffee. 30 years of being Patricia Morrison, Yale Law, Harvard undergrad, published scholar, federal judge. And your husband took one look at me and saw cleaning staff. I pulled my hand back gently, so please don't ask me to protect his career. He can do that himself by being better, by learning from this, by remembering that the woman you dismiss might be the judge deciding your client's constitutional rights, that the people you look through instead of at might be exactly the people you need to respect. Emma broke away from Daniel and stood in front of me. Judge Morrison, I love your son. I don't care what my parents think. I'm going to marry him if he'll have me. Her father made a strangled sound. Her mother swayed slightly. That's between you and Daniel, I said gently. But you should know, Emma, that this is what Daniel has dealt with his entire life. Assumptions. Dismissals. People who saw a black kid from Queens and assumed he was less than. He's brilliant and kind, and he's going to be an extraordinary lawyer. But the world is full of people like your parents who will never see that. Are you prepared for that? For the family dinners where he's out of place? For the country club events where people ask if he's the valet? For the constant microaggressions and the exhausting work of proving he belongs? Emma's jaw set. Yes, I am. And anyone who can't accept him doesn't need to be in our lives, including my parents. Emma! Patricia's voice was sharp with shock. No, Mother. You humiliated the woman I hoped would be my mother-in-law. You insulted the man I love. You revealed prejudices I didn't know you had, or maybe didn't want to see. Judge Morrison is right. This isn't about one mistake. It's about who you are. And I don't like who you are right now. Richard's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and closed his eyes. The client on the Medicaid case. They're requesting a different firm. They don't want counsel who's publicly hostile to the bench. The Henderson Group is pulling out too. Patricia read over his shoulder from her own phone. They sent an email to the management committee. They cited concerns about unconscious bias affecting representation. I watched them unravel. Watched 30 years of professional success evaporate in real time as texts and emails arrived, as the story spread, as clients calculated the liability of being represented by a firm whose senior partner had revealed such profound prejudice. This was what Richard had feared when he grabbed his phone. This cascade of professional consequences. The management committee would be weighing whether one partner was worth the loss of major clients. The calculus was simple and brutal. Judge Morrison. Richard's voice was hollow. What can I do? How can I fix this? You can't, I said simply. You revealed who you are. You can apologize. You can learn. You can spend the next 25 years being better. But you can't undo this. The legal community now knows that Richard Ashford's first instinct, when faced with a black woman in simple clothing, was to assume she was service staff. That he then insisted she be kept away from his guests. That he called her a cleaning lady with contempt in his voice. Every lawyer, every judge, every client will remember that. It will color every interaction you have. Every argument about justice or fairness will carry that subtext. My career is over. It wasn't a question. Perhaps, or perhaps it's just changing. Perhaps you'll work harder, stay later, accept smaller cases. Perhaps you'll find that doors that were always open are now closed, and you'll finally understand what that feels like. Perhaps you'll become a better lawyer for it, or perhaps you'll simply fail. Honestly, Mr. Ashford, I don't care which. That's between you and your firm and your conscience. The dean was on his phone now, his face grave. Security is asking about the social media posts. Apparently someone filmed part of this interaction. It's already being shared in legal circles. Richard made a sound like a wounded animal. Patricia was crying silently, mascara tracking down her face. Stephanie had her arm around her mother, shooting Emma looks of pure fury. Around us, the reception had essentially stopped. Everyone was watching. Everyone would remember. Daniel touched my arm again. Mom, please, let's go. You're right. I smiled at my son, my brilliant, kind, resilient son. We should celebrate your achievement. That's why we came. I looked at Emma. You're welcome to join us for dinner if you'd like, assuming your family can spare you. Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. I'd like that very much. We turned to leave. Behind us, Richard Ashford's phone rang. He answered it with shaking hands. Yes, this is Richard Ashford. What? The Bar Association received a complaint? Based on tonight's incident? Who filed it? I see. Yes, I understand there will be an investigation. No, I don't know if Judge Morrison will be filing a formal complaint with the judiciary. I haven't asked. I paused at the door. Mr. Ashford, I won't be filing any complaints. You've done quite enough damage to yourself without my intervention. The legal community has its own mechanisms for addressing behavior like yours. I trust they'll function properly." We left them there, the Ashford family standing in ruins among champagne flutes and congratulations, watching their carefully constructed world collapse, because they'd assumed a federal judge was cleaning staff, because they'd let their prejudices speak louder than their judgment, because they'd forgotten that in the legal profession, more than almost any other, positions aren't always what they appear to be, and the person you dismiss today might be the person who holds your professional fate tomorrow. Outside, the spring air was cool and clean. Daniel hugged me tightly. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that." "Don't be." I kissed his forehead. "You spent your whole life watching me prove I belonged in rooms that didn't expect me. Tonight they learned what happens when you underestimate Judge Patricia Morrison." I smiled at Emma. "And tonight your girlfriend learned what she's signing up for if she stays with you. Fair warning for everyone involved." Emma took Daniel's hand firmly. "I know exactly what I'm signing up for, and I'm in." My phone buzzed. A text from Judge Anderson. "Just heard what happened at the reception. Well played. Richard Ashford is toxic now. 3 clients have already called the firm. The management committee vote is tomorrow morning. He'll be out by noon. Call me Sunday." I showed it to Daniel. He shook his head in wonder. "That fast?" "That's how the legal world works, sweetheart. Reputation is everything. Richard Ashford spent 25 years building his and destroyed it in 5 minutes because he couldn't see past his prejudices. That's the lesson here. Not just about racism, though that's certainly part of it. About assumptions. About judgment. About how the person you dismiss might be exactly the person you need to respect." We walked toward the parking lot, leaving behind the marble reception hall and the wreckage of the Ashford family's evening. Behind us, through the tall windows, I could see Richard on his phone, pacing frantically. Patricia had collapsed into a chair. The dean was speaking with security. Other guests were on their phones, spreading the story further. By Monday morning, every courthouse in New York would know. By Tuesday, the story would have reached the Second Circuit. By Wednesday, law students would be discussing it in professional responsibility classes as a cautionary tale about bias and judgment. Richard Ashford would become a verb, a warning. Don't Ashford this case would mean, don't let your prejudices blind you to reality. And somewhere in that wreckage was a lesson about respect, about seeing people as they are rather than as you assume them to be, about the cost of letting your biases speak louder than your wisdom. Whether anyone learned that lesson was beyond my control. I'd done my part. I'd shown up to celebrate my son. I'd let them reveal who they were. I'd let consequences happen. The rest was up to them.